going. Podcast 2.
All right.
We're going to start every single podcast with just the sync clap. Yeah.
The sync clap, yeah.
Yeah. But on a serious note, welcome to the second episode of the IndieFilm Insider podcast. My name is Owen Carr, a aspiring producer and DP here with...
Jake Ross Bell. I'm also a director and writer. I guess you didn't say director, but whatever.
Close enough.
Director, writer. And we are joined here today with...
My name's Parker. I'm a cinematographer, director, producer. I guess to say filmmaker is probably easier for now, but
the jack of 17 trades.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to narrow it down a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah. So just to start off, you want to give us a quick recap of, I mean, that was, I guess, who you are, but like kind of the projects that you've been involved with recently.
Yeah, well, recently, I mean, I'm working on a project, Owen,
I
you're
do
a part
know.
of it, called Starting Quarterback. It's a buddy action comedy film. It's been a blast. We still have 2 more days of shooting, but Owen here has been an amazing gaffer. So
trying my best.
Very thankful for him being there. And then before Starting Quarterback was Portrait of Fear, which is doing pretty well on YouTube, and it's pretty shocking. I wasn't expecting that, but I've done multiple horror films, like at least 3 in a row. So I was like, God, I got to switch it up to comedy or something like that, and it's been a blast.
Yeah, so let's talk about Portrait of Fear real quick, because that recently hit 200,000 views.
Yeah, it's approaching 225 now, which
That's
is crazy. Yeah.
In what time frame?
I released it on Halloween of 2024.
Okay, so 4-ish months.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still lapped any film we've ever done like...
It's lapped any of my other films, and I was not expecting it to blow up like this, and I did nothing different, to be honest. Now, I do think there's this film called Portrait of God. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's a short horror film on YouTube, and a lot of people were commenting on Portrait of Fear like, hey, I thought this was like connected somehow. Is it? So that probably drove in some views, which is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I also saw that there was like some kind of like influencer guy who did like a recap, or he like kind of did like sort of explained the film on like Instagram or something. Like,
it was this guy. I believe he's from India. At least it was in Hindi. And that got like, I think it's at like 2.4 million views. Yeah. And I didn't ask him to do that. I don't know who he is. It's just
I was about to ask, how much did you pay him?
Yeah.
But it was just crazy to see that, and I'm trying to remember how I actually came across it, but I may have just been scrolling on Instagram, and I'm like, oh my, this guy's talking about my film. And there were so many comments. People were so interested, like, hey, what's the movie called and whatnot. And I was looking at the demographic in YouTube, and almost, if not more than half the audience for Portrait of Fear was actually from India.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
So it's doing well. It's popular there.
Yeah.
So.
If you look at the comments, like all of them are like, who's here from Instagram Reels? Like,
yes.
Yeah. So,
yeah. And I actually, that's how I discovered it, because I was like,
oh, okay.
Why are so many people saying this? Like, what reel? And then I searched, and, I found it. I was like, wow.
Yeah. So. That's cool.
Yeah, it's crazy. So you said you don't do anything. Like outside of what you normally do to promote your short films. But like even within like a couple of your most recent short films, Hidden Above 1 got like 55K.
I think it's just over 60,000 now.
And Hidden Above 2 is like 35, 30?
Something around there. Yeah, and I was honestly bummed out to see, the second one underperform, only because so much more work was put into that, and it took ages to film and piece together. But YouTube's bizarre. You never know what's going to happen, which is why I was shocked to see Portrait of Fear get that many views.
Yeah, but you didn't really do anything, even with the previous ones, to like optimize title, thumbnail, anything like that on the back end?
The way I usually approach it is I think about, okay, what's a thumbnail that people would probably click on, and I like to include, if the film has won an award at a festival, if you include award-winning short, horror film, short comedy film, I've noticed it tends to get some more views that way, because people are like, oh, it's award-winning, it must be somewhat good. So that's a strategy. But then what I'll do is, like, in the first few weeks, if the film's not really taking off, sometimes I'll change the thumbnail. But then again, Portrait of Fear the first few days, it was just level. I'm like, damn, this sucks. And then out of nowhere, straight up, I'm like, and it didn't stop, and it's still going. Cool. It's definitely slowed down, but it's like, geez.
And that was probably before the reel got posted, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I noticed, because I was looking at the graph of views, and after that reel was posted, you could see a spike.
Yeah.
It wasn't crazy. Like, I think it was after like 6 days of posting is when it just started to skyrocket.
Interesting.
It's like, I didn't do anything different. It just, I posted it and sat there. So
yeah, that's cool. I mean, that's something that like Owen and I are trying to like figure out as well for our films. I believe our most viewed film got like what, like 3,000, 4,000?
Yeah, 3.2, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I mean, I've got quite a few films that didn't even reach 1,000, and it's like,
yeah,
what am I doing? I'm not doing anything differently other than it could be the genre of the film.
I was actually going to mention, like, do you think horror has like a bigger audience for YouTube maybe?
I believe it does. Yeah. That
makes sense.
Even though it's so like oversaturated, they're cheap to make and fairly easy. I wouldn't say any film's easy to make, but people tend to just be like, oh, I'm going to make a film. What am I going to do? Horror film. It's weird that people just kind of default to that. So yeah, people like them on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm curious about that actually, because you said horror films are cheap to make, and of course I've also heard this from like 1,000 other sources that horror films are the cheapest genre of film to make. That's why you've seen like Talk to Me from the Rocka Boys.
I haven't seen it yet, but it's definitely on my watch list, and I followed that whole story of just they're YouTubers, and they put, I think it was like 4 million of their own money into the film, and it got into, was it Sundance or Southwest?
Sure.
I think it was South by Southwest.
Yeah.
And A24 picked it up. It's a dream. That's like I feel like all of our dreams is to have a film play and the studio picks it up and gets distributed. So obviously 4 million, it's a lot of money, but if you compare it to other features, don't even compare it to Marvel. Marvel's budgets are just crazy. But if you just look at, there's a trend that most horror films budgets are a lot lower than the other like action or drama films.
Yeah, and I'm wondering like why that is, because of course if you're doing a huge like a Mission Impossible movie, right? There's no way you're gonna get that down to like 4 mil or whatever. But like, you couldn't do drama for that little. Like, is there any reason like that horror like features like that, like mid-budget horror movies are typically lower budget than like dramas even?
I mean, I don't know the true answer to that, but my guess would be is like, I feel like with horror films, sometimes producers will take chances with like newer actors, and that'll automatically bring the budget down because, if you try and get an A-list actor in your movie, your budget just skyrockets for the most part. But then again, with horror, I feel like there's just so many options and so many simple stories that can be told that are effective. Like you could have a film in one house. So that's the main thing, like locations, it costs a lot. But I don't know. I don't know the true answer to why horror films tend to cost less. But
yeah, I think it would have to do probably with location. Like you don't really need too many characters or too many locations to make like an effective horror.
Exactly.
And like I mean, this is like the best example, but like Blair Witch Project is just like, people with like cameras out in the woods. It's like nothing really happens in the movie, but it's it was like only a couple thousand to make, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and also for horror, you could probably rely a lot on the editing too, as opposed to actually like what's on the screen. Because of course, for dramas, you have to put the majority of the time into writing compelling characters and creating a compelling plot between them. But I guess for horror, it would make sense where if you wanted to, you could rely on like jump scares or like body horror or something like that.
Right.
And that would, I guess satisfy the audience.
It could, yeah. And I feel like nowadays people are kind of over jump scares. They're just like, oh, you're just doing that because it's a cheap way to, get a scare out of someone. But like, why that? You could be more creative with something. And I'm guilty of that for my original horror films. Like back when I started in 2018, I was like, all right, how do you scare the audience? Jump scare. It's like, then I've learned building the tension. That's what really gets people, I feel like. And because you never know when it's going to release, you know? So.
Have you noticed any, have you had any difficulty switching from horror to comedy now? I mean, that's a pretty big jump.
It's a very big jump. And yes, I would say this is the first film that I didn't write. So all of my other films I've written and directed and shot, which it's a lot of work. And I'm trying to, I know, Owen, we've talked about this before, but
we'll talk about that in a minute too.
Yeah. But because I didn't write the script, that was its own challenge, like directing a film, that I haven't written. So I was like, I was a little nervous about it, but thankfully, David, who wrote the script, did a great job, and him and I actually produced this film together. So we worked very well together, and we modified the script multiple times until we both were really happy with it. So that was a big help. But in terms of like working with the actors and stuff, because I'm so used to, all these dramatic horror films and whatnot, it was easier than I expected, only because the environment on set was completely different. It wasn't what I was expecting, because when you make a horror film, the set is pretty tense. Everyone's sort of quiet. A comedy, everyone's all enjoying it, and I'm not saying people don't enjoy making a horror film, but it's just the mood's completely different. And the actors, there was a lot of bloopers, which is always fun, but of course when you're on a tight schedule, it's like, all right, we gotta we gotta keep going. But no, it was a great experience, and I'm we're still not done, so I'm looking forward to our last shoots. But
I think also for comedy there is a wider, I guess, room for improv as opposed to horror or even drama, because like you can improv lines here or there, but like of course the comedy, the main goal is to make the audience laugh more than anything else.
Exactly.
And I feel like part of it might be like giving the actors a little more agency within their role.
For sure.
Letting them like kind of spur off and create other lines of dialogue that they're happy with. Because I know even I suggested like a couple of lines on one of the days of shooting.
We did, in the office. We were talking about a few things.
That they just incorporated into the performance. That was never even like thought of in the script prior to the actual day of shooting.
Yeah, and that's what I really enjoy, or have enjoyed about making this film so far, is like the actors will bring something to the table that you wouldn't expect. I'm not saying like with a horror film they wouldn't do that, but it's like you were saying with the dialogue, they really like to improv. Now there's a fine line. It's like you can't have them completely veer off the script.
Sure.
But like here and there, if they add or slightly change something, I'm totally fine with that. It's whatever makes the film and the story and the audience enjoy it. That's the main goal.
Yeah, that's kind of more my approach as well. I kind of think like, ideally this actor should know the character better than I do. Like even though I wrote the character, I hope this actor can actually embody and understand the character better than I can. Like we did our last film, was a drama, and our lead actor Phoenix, he suggested a couple different things about like, oh, maybe my character should stand here, maybe he should maybe like just stand up and kind of like just stuff like that. Kind of was like really cool to see. It wasn't in the script at all. Like the idea was just this character just sits here and just like looks sad. But he kind of suggested this thing that I think really improved the script. So I definitely think letting the actor kind of have some agency there is super beneficial.
Totally, yeah. And giving the actors as much information about the character is so important, because like you said, if the actor can embody that character, it's going to feel so much more natural, and you're going to get more than you expected out of that character and their performance.
Yeah.
So,
it's actually what I like, because I saw that promo you did for starting quarterback. It was just, I thought that was like clever, because it was just, I just like the dynamic a lot. It felt very natural, because I could see, I forget the premise. It was, what was it? It was like you had, David, he's the lead.
Yeah.
And he was sort of just like introducing the film, and then the supporting lead comes in. He's like in character.
Yes.
And yeah. I think that's a nice little play on that though, like showing like, and it also kind of makes the I don't know. It just makes your cast very likable, I guess. Just kind of showing that. But I don't know. I thought that was very clever.
Thank you. Yeah. That was the goal with that, because I've never really done a crowdfunding thing before, and I've always been like up in the air about it. But this budget is the biggest I've worked on. So I was like, okay, anything we can get is going to help us. And yeah, the main goal with that was to not obviously show the film, because we hadn't shot it yet, but show at least some of the character, and yeah, especially with Kaio, who's the other actor who plays Matt Anderson. Every time the cameras roll, he's just so funny, and that's why I was like, okay, yep, you're gonna be in character as soon as you come on set, in that promo, and it works so perfectly, and it was pushing David, who his character's name is Dave, funny enough, to finally like, all right, I'm going to get in character now, because clearly we're not doing this unless we're both in character. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. It was definitely an enjoyable, like, obviously the goal is to try to earn some, like, try to convince people to get some money for your short film, but like it by itself was a pretty enjoyable watch. I'm not going to lie.
That's
for
good.
like 2.5, 3 minutes. I have a question about like the budget, because I think you had like $6,000 as target, and obviously the film isn't completed yet, so you don't actually know where everything was allocated. But if you're comfortable sharing it, do you mind kind of giving a rough distribution, like X% went to this, X% went to that, of the budget for this one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the full breakdown memorized, but I could share a bit about it. So a lot of the money went towards food, which is... I'm sure you guys know.
I know.
Especially with a crew, the bigger crew, the more food you need and whatnot. But then again, it's like that's the least we can do is provide plenty of food and drinks. But also costumes. There's a lot of characters. This is the biggest cast I've ever worked with. I think we have 14 characters in the film.
Oh, wow.
That includes some extras, but then again, they all need costumes. So, and almost all of our costumes were purchased for this film. A couple of them the actors had, and I'm like, okay, that'll work, just to save some money here and there. But yeah, the costumes was like, this is a big chunk of it. So.
Yeah, now, even like with the one we're working on, like right now, we so dumb. We just mocked together like a little logo for a coffee shop that's supposed to be in the film, and it's like we're gonna have the main guy in the shirts, and then like 3 or 4 other people like as extras, and that's like $100 in shirts just like right there for like 3 or 4 people, and it's like, okay.
And it's a quick scene too. It's like a not that big part. It's a decently sized scene, but it's not. It's like barely a few pages. So
I find that's what happens a lot with these smaller scenes, is like there's so much involved in them, and it's like you spend all this money on these little details, like the shirts and whatnot, and it's like only for that little portion. It's like, damn.
Yeah.
But I've been there. So.
Yeah, I had a question. Backing up real quick to when we're talking about like hidden above. You mentioned building tension as one of the biggest like things you can do to invoke, I guess, fear in someone in a horror movie, aside from jump scares, obviously. Is there anything that you do as a director to help build tension in the films?
Ooh. Yes, that's a tricky question. Thanks for putting me on the spot. I mean, a good example, I know you mentioned Hidden Above, but Portrait of Fear, if you don't mind me.
Yeah, of course.
So now that film, the first half of it was more so a drama, and then it kind of flips. And that's what I was going for, because it would be really difficult to build that tension from the very start all the way to the end. But then again, people know it's a horror film, so that tension's kind of there. But what I do with, when I work with actors is, well, Lainey, who was the lead in Portrait of Fear, fantastic. She's just, you tell her something and she'll pick it up like that. And it's a lot of like method acting, but yeah, as a director, it's just asking what she needs from me. And before we get on set, it's like she knows the character really well, so she's already been able to prepare for the scenes that we're going to shoot. But to be honest, like the directing side of it, my job's pretty easy because I work with such great actors, and I know it's tough to like gosh, I don't know where I'm trying to go with this, because I don't want to say, yeah, I just get there and don't do anything, you know, but it's hard to explain, because I've never had someone really ask like, oh yeah, what do you do when you direct a scene where there's all this tension? You know, it's something I'd have to think about, I feel like.
But, I mean, if I would have asked that, I mean, obviously, I think where you're kind of going with it is like a little bit of a lame answer, but it's kind of intrinsic. Like somebody asks, hey, how do you do this? You're like, I just know. I don't know how I know, but I just know. And I feel like that's a little bit with me when especially for like DP's composition, for example. Obviously there's stuff you should generally stick to, like the rule of thirds and stuff like that, but like a lot of the times, especially with creative shots, it's like it just looks good to me. And a lot of that, it's like practice, probably more so than like you're born with it,
right? For sure.
And then also for tension building, I'd imagine a lot of it's in the edit too.
Totally. Yeah, and sound too. Sound plays a major role in a horror film, and I'm lucky to work with Ryan Calhoun and Ryan Leonard, so two Ryans, both composers. So for Starting Quarterback, they're actually both writing the music together, so that's really cool. But they're also great sound designers too, so I'm lucky to work with them.
Well, yeah. Also, just kind of going back to what you said, sort of at the beginning, how you take on directing and editing and kind of all these like major roles. You kind of mentioned that you wanted to like downsize a little bit on that.
Yes.
Could I just ask why? Like, what's the intention with that?
You know, when I'm doing or taking on all these roles, like, you know, director, I'm shooting the thing, I wrote the script. It's like I'm producing. Like when you're on set, it's just too much to focus on, and personally, I feel like at least one position lacks, and I feel like I could put more into it. But it's like if you're doing all these things, you can only juggle so much at the same time. So, you know, directing is not my favorite thing, and I really like, you know, cinematography. I like shaping light, making beautiful images. So that's what I'm really leaning towards now. And I don't want to give up directing, but it's like doing the two together on a bigger scale production. It's too much, and it's stressful.
Do you think it's kind of like hard to give up the title of director? Because like I feel like there's maybe like I don't want to like minimize myself, you know, but like I could understand that, because we actually used to do the same thing, sort of, where we were just kind of both. I was like writer director, he was like, you know, writer director, or sorry, actually yeah, you would write sometimes too.
Yeah,
a little bit, yeah. So we kind of like combined the directing roles, so we were both director and co-director, and yeah, I think what we have done since then is sort of separate. So he's done more just director of photography, I've done more just directing.
Right.
I think there's been a noticeable just shift in like the feel of our films. I feel like they have gotten a little bit just better in each category.
Okay.
At least personally, like on set, it feels so much easier, you know? So
right.
I don't know. It's subjective, I guess, if they got better. Maybe they got worse. I don't know. Possibly that. But it feels a lot easier to like actually get production done. So no,
Also, an interesting tidbit on that is as you get onto bigger sets, like when you're smaller, it's like one thing, but acting as a DP on a bigger set is honestly less creative and more of a managerial position.
Yep.
Like a lot of the times when you're on a bigger set, you have a camera operator, so you don't actually have to physically touch. I mean, unless you want to, of course. Like I know Greg Fraser.
Depends
like
on the DP, really. Yeah.
Some like operating the camera, some don't. But a lot of the times, it's like after coming up to you, it's like, hey, what lighting do you want for XYZ? You're having to manage like timing for a lot of stuff, like if the production designer can get their set up on time and whatnot, and that takes a lot of a mental toll on you as well.
Yes, for sure.
And I can imagine, because you do have to do some aspects of that in smaller shoots too, just like telling grips what to do.
Right.
But like going into larger sets where your crew is like 10, 12, 15 people, if you're trying to direct and DP at the same time, it could honestly just get like too much mentally, not even like creative wise.
Yeah. No, I've definitely experienced that. And I know you asked a question about like, you know, giving up that director title. And that is something that I have been kind of struggling with, because yes, I've always had this belief like, oh yeah, I want my name, as a director, because when someone watches a movie and they really enjoyed it, they're like, oh, who's that director? They're not like, hey, who shot that thing? Only like a filmmaker might say that, but it's not about that, to be honest. It's about doing what you enjoy most, which is why I finally realized, okay, directing, it's not really my thing. I'll do it. I'm okay at it, but picking up a camera and shooting a film, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, because that's actually that's a conversation that Jake and I had a while ago.
Okay.
Because I was like debating like whether to step down as like co-directors and just kind of take on the role as DP. And like, if I'm honest, I don't really know how I got over that like feeling. Because like when you premiere something at a festival or whatever, the people at the festival are like, yeah, one person from each film come up. And a lot of the times that's the director.
Yes.
Even though as a DP, you probably put equally as much effort into it as the director did. And like, it is hard a lot of the time stepping back from a lot of the initial recognition. But like, a lot of the times the filmmakers are going to know who shot, like the filmmakers in the audience are going to know who shot it. They'll be able to recognize like, hey, the direction was different from the cinematography. Who's the director? Who's the cinematographer? They're able to tell the difference. And like, realistically, that's kind of all you're not going to interact with people who don't think that way a lot of the time.
True. Yeah. And that's a good point with like film festivals, like you were saying. Because the director is going to be the one up there, and the cinematographer's, blending in with the audience, But it's not really about that, to be honest. It's being proud of your work. That's the main thing, and which is why I've, like producing. Producing is something I also enjoy, and I want to produce and shoot things. So I'm down to do that for future projects. And that's not only because like I enjoy it, but also, like having the production, Parker Film like attached to a project is something else that's appealing to me. It's not so much like, oh, I want full creative control. It's not about that. I just want to, I know how to produce a film, and it's an enjoyable process. So like, like I said, shooting a film and producing it, I can totally do that. And that's something I want to do. Yeah.
A little anecdote though. I mean, the last film we did was called I'll See You Again. And Owen was the DP for that. And I went to he was actually he went to Spain during one of the festivals because he chickened out.
He's too scared.
Yeah, but I went there and I went up there and afterward, like pretty much every question I got was always started with like, oh, like who shot the film? Like it looks so nice. Like I was like, oh yeah, thank you. Like I definitely did that.
Oh yeah, it's not me. And like, the other dude's not even here. It's
No, but I mean, I mean, people do notice. It's like the first thing you notice is like if it looks good or not. If it looks bad, they're gonna be like, whoever that guy was, don't work with him again. Or they're gonna be the opposite, where it's like it looks great, and they're like, yeah, that was really appealing to look at,
Yeah.
So I think people do recognize that, I think maybe in a more like with a more massive audience, maybe not so much, but I mean, no, definitely at the festivals, I was like, come on, you can mention my directing, like you'd be like, hey, the direction was so good, like.
No, that is a good point. Yeah, because if there's a bad image on the screen, people are gonna notice that, not in a good way. It's like, and then if there's a good image on the screen, they're gonna notice it as well, and probably be more interested. So yeah.
Sure. It's also something that's interesting when you say good image or bad image. I almost think about it as a little bit like editing. Like good editing, you don't notice, but bad editing, it's all you can see. And I feel like obviously it's a little bit different with cinematography because cinematography, you can notice the good. So it's like kind of a cringe thing. I'm not gonna lie, but like the A24 look. Because like A24 is obviously a distribution thing more than that. Right. But like, I think they're talking about like, have you seen Monkey Man?
No.
Yeah. Basically, it's shot with like a ton of like vibrant, contrasty colors.
Okay.
And then there's also and that's kind of regarded to have like really beautiful cinematography. But there's also films like Conclave. I don't don't know if you've seen that one.
No,
either.
I've seen the trailer, and I was actually gonna get around to seeing it, but with Ray Fiennes in it,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
and like John Lithgow. Yeah, that's also regarded to have really beautiful cinematography. But from what I can tell, a lot of it is just big soft source camera motivated by a window.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the times it's like, especially for people who are trying to do a more modern style, it's like everything has to be motivated. All you have to do is accent existing light.
Right.
And when you accent existing light, that is kind of almost an unnoticeable cinematography. But there is like a sort of a beauty to that in the sense that the cinematography just aids the story and it doesn't distract the viewer from anything else.
Yeah, and it's like simplicity is usually the best. You know, I've done this before myself, but I've like, you know, tried to light a shot. I'm like, oh yeah, we need the rim light, we need the fill light, we need the key light, we need, you know, all the lights. You don't really need that. It's whatever feels right and whatever makes sense for the story and the environment. That's how I approach things. Is like, sure, you know, a nice backlight always looks good, but like, is it necessary for this, you know, sequence or whatever? So
Yeah.
yeah.
How much of the look of a film do you attribute to your color grade?
So, I mean, coloring, it's something that I'm not a big fan of, but I do experiment a lot in post. And there have been times where I've created a complete look for a film and I changed the whole thing. And it's like, there was something about just, it didn't feel right. So, you know, coloring, it's very powerful in the edit. So, but it like, the question, what was it one more time?
Like how much of the look of a film do you attribute to the cinematography versus like the color grade?
It hits almost 50-50 because it's like when you shoot a film, especially like in RAW, and I've seen this done before with student films. They've shot a film in RAW and didn't touch the color. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like
We've seen that a few times.
It's like the color is that's why I said 50-50.
Yeah.
It's you shoot it, that's half the whatever you call it, that's half the product, you know. So you got to color it, and you can really manipulate things in post. So it's important, very important.
Yeah, it's like at least put the LUT on, you know.
Something,
like,
it's like all these washed out, like, and you go ask them, it's like, no, that's how we wanted it to look. It's like, okay,
is it really?
Is it really, or did you just not know how to grade or get someone to grade it for you? You know, it's like, but.
Yeah, I know nothing of that. I mean, that's kind of also the split as well, because like Owen and I, we split the like actual production with our directing, or I'm director, he's, you know, DP, and then even like with editing, we kind of try to do like, I'll try to do more sound design and he'll try to do more coloring.
Okay.
And yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm good at sound design like at all. I like want to never do. I wish there was an AI I could use. I'm kidding. No, never. We don't use AI. Especially not today or any other day. Cut that out, actually. No, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. The post-production really, it really just, you can like change your entire film. You could probably make Starting Quarterback like a horror film, which is
totally. Oh yeah. Editing, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
And some people don't realize it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of the time, not a subpar coloring job necessarily, but like a color grading job that the cinematographer didn't have in mind can completely botch the cinematography of a movie. I'm thinking about Wicked, for example. I don't know if you've seen a lot of discourse online that it looks like shit.
No.
There are people saying that it looks really flat and it looks not great. I think a lot of that is because of the color grading of it. It was an intentional choice by the director.
Interesting.
But I think the main disconnect of it is because you're in the world of Oz. It's supposed to be like this colorful, saturated place.
Right.
But it ends up being like kind of a two-tone type image.
Interesting.
That the cinematographer didn't necessarily intend, but the director in the coloring room was like, yeah, I should just desaturate it. It'll be fine.
That's like the last movie I would think that would be desaturated like that.
Yeah.
It's
like if you look at some clips of it, like you can see like it's not great. And I think it's kind of also ignited a conversation about the DP has to be in the coloring bay with the colorist, because people who aren't necessarily in the industry or don't know about it can attribute that to the DP, and I don't know, might give them a negative perception.
That's so true. Yeah, if you have a different colorist and they don't know really what they're doing or know what the goal is, it could totally not ruin, but go right. Cinematographer went left. You know, it's like, what happened? Who's the one that? I'm not saying anyone's at fault, but like you were saying, the cinematographer might not have wanted it to look like that because he shot it a certain way. So.
Yeah, I mean, at its core, it's kind of just a lack of communication, right?
Yeah.
Which kills a film more than anything else.
True.
Yeah. I had a question about your producing, because I've obviously been on set with you, and I've thought your producing was actually pretty impressive. In terms of,
thank you.
For example, like how much time you put in pre-production. I know how hard like getting every little thing that you need for the scene you're shooting is, and I don't think you've actually ever missed anything as far as I'm aware. So
I'm sure I have, but nothing huge that has really like, shoot, we can't film today. You know, it's like I've never been there, thankfully. But yeah, like producing a film, I don't know if you guys have produced.
Yeah, I'm the main producer on a lot of stuff.
So you know how it goes, and it's not easy by any means. You know, it's one of those things where pre-production, that's where I put the most time. It's like if you're not more prepared than you think you need to be, the production is just not going to go smoothly. And obviously there's always going to be, you know, hiccups on set that were unexpected. It always happens, you know, whether it's a crew member gets sick the day of, or it starts to rain and you're filming outside when it was supposed to be sunny. You know, it's like, because you're scheduling these days way in advance and you never know what's going to happen. So, but yeah, like my approach when I start working on a film is first thinking about my cast and crew. It's like, who do I want on this project? And thankfully, because I've been doing this for about 7-8 years now, I've kind of put together a dream team. I mean, maybe not dream team, but like there's people that I know, okay, I'm going to approach them for this because I know I've worked with you. You're amazing, you know? So I'm lucky to have that kind of thing to fall back on, because I've been in the position before, and I'm sure we all have. You know, it's like cast and crew calls on your Instagram story, and you know, it's like you don't know who these people are, and some people might not even reach out, and it's like you're just trying to beg people at that point. So we've all been there, but I feel like I've moved past that, which is awesome. But yeah, it's like I said, pre-production, plan more than you think.
Yeah, what are some like because I think that's a thing a lot of people take for granted. Like we are like, this is the film that we're doing next March is like the first time we've like really done like a rehearsal for anything.
Okay.
So and when that's like obviously a huge deal. I mean, like that's super important for the actors to kind of like work out the script and stuff beforehand and stuff. And
totally.
And we never really did that before, and I don't know why. Maybe just like we thought like I don't know why we haven't done that, but maybe just like timing, you know, you don't want to like take up too much of the actor's time, or, you know.
Right.
But, I mean, yeah, what are some like tips you have, I guess, like some things that you didn't really do before, but you do now, and it helps with the efficiency of the production?
I mean, starting with like doing a table read, you know, with your cast. And that is something that I didn't really do up until like, I think Starting Quarterback's like the first one I've done that for, to be honest with you. And I really wanted to try and get all the cast together in person. It didn't work out just because of everyone's schedule and where everyone's located. So I was like, okay, we worked it out on Zoom, and it's better than nothing. Even though we literally just read through the script, and I gave some notes here and there. But other than that, I think that hour of time probably saved us hours on set. Because, you know, the actors asked me some questions like, okay, what if we change this? Or how do you want me to deliver this? And it's like, that's time saved on set, which is huge. So I highly recommend, you know, always do a table read at least once, twice if you can, for sure. But other than that, it's like making sure, you know, whether you're producing or you have someone else producing with you, that everyone knows what tasks they have and what needs to be done, and always schedule, deadlines for everything, because otherwise chances are things are going to get forgotten or just not happen, and that's the main thing. And also being organized. There's a platform called Milanote. I don't know if you guys have heard of it before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I actually started using that for starting quarterback, and it's been very helpful, because it's like all the information is just right there. Because in the past I've had things scattered all throughout Google Docs, Google Sheets. It's like, and then I try and find something. Wait, where was that again? And it's staying organized is so crucial. But that's the main thing is organization, planning with your cast and crew, and communication. Communication is key for sure. So.
Yeah. I had a question on locations. So I know for starting quarterback, at least, we have a bunch of different, I'm going to say elaborate locations. Like, for example, we have like a football field. There's like a warehouse with cars in it. There's like an office space. How do you get these? Do you know people? Do you just spam out cold emails?
Locations are the most tedious thing, and the thing I dread the most about any film, especially this one, just because we had so many locations, like you were saying. And my main approach is, if I need a location, first thing is ask people I know. It's like, hey, do you know a place like so-and-so, like that has this, and this, or at least this aspect that I really need, and then I can adapt. If I get all no's, which that happened a few times, so I was like, okay, now it's going to get really complicated. What I did was actually Facebook Marketplace, believe it or not, has location listings. And this was the first time I've done this, but I was like, this is weird, because normally Facebook is like where you can buy and sell things, Yeah. But so that's where I found the auto shop where we filmed with all the cars and the cool warehouse. It was on Marketplace, and it was like a shop that you can rent out for the day to work on your car. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to give this a shot. So I contacted the guy, and I was like, hey, this is probably a weird request, but could I shoot a film in here for like 8 hours on this day? And he said, yeah. And, it wasn't free, but it's like he gave us a really good rate, and we got the space. So
yeah, because I know there are some specific either like film or photo shoot rental websites. Like there's not ShareGrid, sorry, PeerSpace, and Gigster are two that I can think of off the top of my head. Their rates are exorbitant. Yeah. For us, they're probably industry standard rates, to be fair. Yep. But like, it's the same thing where it's like, you have a bag, it's $10. If you put the word camera in front of it, it's now $50.
Exactly. Right.
They can just like not inflate, because it's probably there's probably a reason for it, but like, what we've done is we, like, for houses, for example, they're just like Airbnbs.
Yes.
Obviously you would want to message them beforehand. If you really wanted to, you probably didn't have to, and just fingers crossed they wouldn't.
Right, because I mean, technically you're renting the space.
Right. I wouldn't recommend that.
Right.
I'm not going to say you should, but it's something you could do if you wanted. What we did for one we shot like last January is we just like messaged the people before renting it. It's like, hey, would you be okay if we shot a film in here? We'd throw you an extra $100 on top of the fee, because it's like, if we're renting it out anyways, like, in theory, we could do whatever we want. Funnily enough, the person that we ended up renting it out from, their like her husband was like in film.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
that makes it easier.
Yeah. He knows the struggle.
Yeah. Plus, you get a place to stay the night because you have it for the whole day, and
that's very true.
So, it's just like
it's like a 2-in-1.
Yeah, but like for houses, obviously, is one thing. But yeah, for more specific locations like auto shops, like, how'd you get the football field? Did you just like email the district, be like, hey, can we do this?
To be honest, that was one of the most complicated locations to secure. I started out originally, I was like, okay, I'm gonna approach my film professor at DVC, because I was a student when we filmed that at DVC, and she was like, oh yeah, we've had students film there before, no problem. I'm like, okay, well, I want to at least get permission so that we don't show up and get kicked out, because that's the last thing we need. And so what I did was I sent an email to I think it was the athletic director at the school, and I never heard back. I tried like 2 times. I'm like, okay, this is not a good sign. So what I did next was actually went down to the field on, it was just, I don't know what day it was, but just in the evening when football practice was going on. And I showed up right when the practice was ending. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try and find the coach and just ask him. So I did, and funny enough, he's like, "Oh, you'd have to check with the athletic director." I'm like, oh, "Okay." So I got in this, vicious cycle, and eventually, I did another location scout at the same field, and it was around. I think I went on a Saturday because we shot on a Saturday, and I went around the same time we were gonna shoot just to kind of scout it out. And there was this lady, her name's Annie, and she was just like one of the groundskeepers or whatever, driving, like the golf cart. So I just approached her and I was like, "Hey, I've tried reaching out to, the athletic director. I talked to the football coach. I'm just trying to shoot a film here. I'm a student." And she was completely fine with it. And she had the keys to the gate. So, cause on the weekends, there's really no one down there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So she drove like almost an hour from where she lived to come unlock the gates for us.
Damn.
And
That's cool.
she even like provided us ice water in a big container for the cast and crew, and it was like, wow. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
that's awesome.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the most difficult location that we secured, we shot a film last November that's still in post-production right now. It's like one scene, basically, 5-6 pages, takes place at a bar. And what did we do? We just walked into a bunch of different random bars. We were just like walking up, go up to the bars and be like, "Hey, do you know if the owner's here?" They're like, "No, they're not." Why? It's like, "Yeah, we're a couple of local filmmakers trying to shoot a film, and we need a bar location. Can we leave them a note? Whatever." That didn't work for any of them.
Wow.
But what had ended up happening, and obviously this is like partially lucky, but
Connections.
Jake's aunt went to high school with someone who now owns a bar in a local area.
Okay.
And he was just like, "Hey, can you reach out to him?" She's like, "Sure." And then that ended up working out there.
Yeah.
We were able to use it for 4 hours for free.
Wow. Even better.
Yeah. 3 of it was, so they opened at 11 and we were able to use it from 8 to noon. And we finished on time, which was good. But like,
that's good, yeah.
Obviously, like lazy answer is like no people. But if you want like more actionable advice for anyone watching, it's like, is there anyone that you know that you could maybe change the location to, like, if the location doesn't matter too much, is there anyone you know that has access to something close enough where you can maybe pivot the script a little bit to make it actually easier to film that? Right.
And I've definitely done that before, because like, and that's what's so important about like writing a script as an independent filmmaker is know your limitations, and be willing to make changes later on, because there's only so much you can really achieve, which is unfortunate, but that's the way it is, So.
Yeah. And also just like another thing of advice, I think, is like, if you're trying to find people or locations or whatever, just building out your network helps like a lot. Just like, cause then you can like kind of ask around, and then you'll have more people to ask. I mean, for the last year, for Owen and I, just like going to some festivals and getting our films into a few festivals and stuff, and getting to like, get people's contact and stuff. We've like kind of probably more than doubled our network, and now we have like an actual like net of people we can just like contact to, get a location or get them to come on set and help out. So
cool.
No, I mean, I think those just festivals and stuff, networking and mixers, whatever, just like do whatever you can, just to get people.
100%.
Get some contacts.
Networking so important. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Here's a question. You mentioned like a bit ago that you've assembled your kind of dream team as far as your film crews go. What happens when that dream team isn't enough? What happens when there is a concept that you have or a script you get approached with that you have 10 people normally on set? What happens when it warrants 20?
Or if they're all on an airplane and the airplane just crashes and it's just you, no more dream team.
That would be really sad. I would probably do what I used to do is, send out stuff on Instagram. Also look at like, I know Facebook groups are a good option. There's filmmaker groups on there. But just working on more projects and getting to know people, that's the main thing. The more connections you can make, the better. Because like you said, if someone's not available or I need more people, then there's more people that I know, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I would say I would do. But
yeah.
Is that how you assembled your dream team? Just kind of like networking, or is it just like friends and then that kind of grew, or how'd you get them?
It started with friends, and then friends knowing other friends, and then and then yes, networking for sure. First film festival I went to was in 2022, actually at DVC, the school I go to, and that really helped because I met quite a few people there, and I continued to go to more festivals, met more people, handed out business cards, and that's really what I've done. And then I've, for like cast and crew calls, I would, put them on Instagram and whatnot, and those people that I met, a lot of them would reach out, and it's like, sweet. And then after doing that, it's like, okay, clearly they want to work with me. I'm going to reach out to them for another project, and they've been very great at, wanting to help out. So,
yeah. I think that's something that maybe I haven't been I think I've kind of just been doing it subconsciously. It's like on every new project that I'm running, I'm going to start trying to consciously have 2 to 3 people that I haven't worked with before.
Yeah.
Because obviously there are risks in that, right? Like, what if you don't work well together? What if blah, 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 blah. But like on the off chance that they do work, you guys do work well together, it's like, okay, well, I had this list of 5 people that are free with my films. Okay, 2 of them help me and then 3 others. Oh, now it's 8 people. And then it kind of just keeps expanding and expanding. And obviously you won't use all of them for every single project.
Right.
Some might not be available, some might not be interested. But it's just like, if you eventually get hired by Marvel, it's like, hey, you need a team of 100 to assemble. It's like, okay, well, I'm already halfway there as opposed to only having a handful.
Right. That's a really good approach. Yeah, and I've done that for most of my films, is just, giving people the option. Obviously, if they want to help out, please, I need the help. For starting quarterback, there's quite a few people like you. This is the first time I've worked with you.
Yeah.
There's at least like 4 or 5 other people that are brand new that I've never met before. And the whole team has been incredible. Like I would work with every single person again, for sure. But like for Portrait of Fear, that was all people I've already known because it was such a small scale production.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no need to make it a huge production. The budget's low and it's one tiny house that we were in. So it's like, I don't want to crowd the room anyway, So, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of your films have won some various awards at some local festivals. And like you kind of mentioned earlier that it helps to have that in the title, at least for YouTube clicks. This is an issue that actually Jake and I had for our most recent film, is that it might not have been the most like appealing to mass audiences.
Okay.
Is there anything that you do either consciously or subconsciously, I don't know, that maybe helps your film win some of those awards?
I don't know, to be honest. It's one of those things where a lot of the festivals I submit to are actually run by the same guy, which sounds a little like, okay, that could be biased, but he does it through the DVC and then another school that's nearby as well. So a lot of the same kind of people show up to those festivals. But the main reason, I put my films in there is just to see it on a big screen and see a live audience reaction. That's the main thing. But in terms of like, oh, I'm definitely going to do this to make sure I win. But it's like, no one can make sure they win. That's a dumb statement, to be honest. Right. It's like, I don't do it to win. I do it to get a reaction. That's the main reason I make films, really. But yeah, there's no guarantee, like I said, that you're going to win anything. And that's not the way I approach it. But
Do you have a film after starting quarterback planned?
Currently, I don't. And normally, I'm very good about starting to write a script right when I start production on a film, which isn't the best, because then my mind is split 2 different ways. It's like, oof. So no, I don't have anything lined up currently. There are a couple films that I've heard about that people have approached me, and I'm interested. Whether that's shooting the film or just helping out in any way. But yeah, there's nothing really lined up. Especially, I'm starting San Francisco State, majoring in cinema. So it's like going into that full time for 2 years, I'm not going to have a whole lot of time to make my own films aside from the films I make in school. So
Sure.
Yeah.
Actually, we could talk about that. I went to a film school, Chico State, not really a film school, a film program.
Okay, yeah, at least they had it, so that's good.
And dropped out after a semester, or like half a semester. I am like personally of the opinion that you don't need film school. Like making films is a more than adequate film school. What made why did you decide to, I guess, go to a traditional film program after making a handful of films that have already done pretty damn well? What made you think you need to do that as opposed to just creating?
You know, I debated it for so long. It's like, damn, I really feel like I don't need to go to film school just because I have so much experience. Yes, there's a lot to learn, but I feel like I could learn that not going to school, you know, just by practice and meeting people and learning from other people. The main reason I'm going there is just so I have a degree. In case something takes a left turn and film doesn't work out, I have something to fall back on. That's really the reason. Then again, it's like I figured I might as well major in cinema because that's what I'm interested in, and I'm sure some of the classes will, you know, teach me something.
Of course.
So
Yeah.
it's like that. But yeah, that's the main reason, just so I have that security to fall back on something.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Because I've seen a lot of people recommend, like, no, don't go to school for film. Just go to school, get a random STEM degree, and then just work films on the side. I feel like it's also a lot of any individual's learning style. Like, for me, I cannot fucking stand sitting in a class.
I can't either, and which is why I debated for so long. I mean, I just got my AS degree, but I want to get the BS degree, just so I have options, you know. But it's like I'm kind of dreading it. I'm not totally looking forward to it. But then again, if I step back and think about it, it's 2 years, you know. Well, 2 more years. Obviously, I've already gone through the hell, but 2 more years and then I'm done. So it can't be too bad. Hopefully.
Fair enough. There's also this amazing podcast that's actually being made that will teach everyone about film. So
What's it called, Jake?
Maybe. I don't know. I forgot the name.
I can't think of it either.
I think it's by these like 2 pretty forgettable guys who don't make good films.
2 idiots.
It's by.
I know what. No.
Yeah. No, I mean, what about like, do you have any aspirations? I mean, I'm sure everyone does, but like to make a feature or.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
It's a scary thing to think about. Just a feature, you know. I've only done shorts, so it's like.
Fair enough. Yeah.
The main thing holding me back is, I mean, I don't have a story yet, so I haven't gone that far, but the main thing that is just the budget, you know. It's like you need money to make a feature. Even if it's a little bit, it's still more than, you know, I can afford. So yeah.
So for starting quarterback, from my understanding, David, the person who's also the lead actor, he wrote it, right?
Yes.
And so did he just kind of, after doing Hidden Above 2 together, he just approached you? He's like, hey, I have this script idea. Can you help me make it?
Not really, actually. Here's what happened is it was after Hidden Above 2, and I was just at home, and my brain was just going crazy. I'm like, all right, I'm getting some ideas here. And I just came up with this idea, you know, it's like, hey, kind of buddy comedy. I know it's been done before. And I didn't really have the aspect of the quarterbacks in there, but I just texted Dave and I'm like, hey, I got this idea. I sent him it was a fairly long text with as much detail as I could put into it. 3-4 days later, he sends me a full ass script. I'm like, what?
You speed ran the script
I was
writing.
not expecting that. And I'm like, wow. Now that was back in November of 2023, I believe. And we didn't do much with the script after that. We weren't really talking a whole lot because, you know, he was busy. I was busy. I was working on Portrait of Fear at the time I was starting that. But I knew when I was working on Portrait of Fear, I want to pick this thing back up, and we did. So that's kind of how it happened.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. So you kind of approached him with the idea, and he just kind of took charge from the idea that you kind of gave him, basically.
Yeah, because I'm not a fan of writing. That's not my strong suit, and he writes scripts like all the time. He has multiple features that are written.
Wow.
And yeah, he loves to write. So I'm really glad that he, sent me that script, because I didn't want to write it. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have any interest in other, I guess, film adjacent mediums? So, for example, like any videography, any YouTube work, any commercial work, any
totally.
Like that?
Yeah, I really want to expand my portfolio. I have done some commercial work, just a little bit. I shot this like promo video for this floral company in San Francisco at like this Sephora makeup event. So that was fun. And then I've also shot a commercial for Hint Water.
I think I saw that one.
Yeah. So it was funny story. I did it for fun at first, and then they saw it and they're like, "Hey, can you make like another one?" So they sent me a ton of water and products and stuff like that, and so I made it, and that was fun. But
did that run? Did they run it?
They put it on their Instagram.
The second one.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. But other than that, I haven't really done much commercial work, and I really want to start expanding and doing more stuff like that. But it's like, and then you said YouTube, right?
Yeah, just like
so I was actually a YouTuber, a gaming YouTuber for 3-4 years. And I eventually stopped because I'm like, this is not really what I want to do. I wasn't even a good gamer anyway. I was like, and at the time I was already making films. I'm like, okay, this is what I want to focus on. But on the Parker Film YouTube channel, which is approaching 2,000 subscribers now, which is insane. Portrait of Fear, I was at 700 before Portrait of Fear.
Oh, yeah,
it's brought in that many. Crazy. So I want to start putting more content on there, whether it's, breaking down my films or just tutorials, stuff like that. So
I have a question about the gaming channel. I'm going somewhere relevant with this, trust me.
Okay.
How many subs did it amass?
1.5 thousand.
Like, I mean, it's not bad at all. It's kind of interesting because when we were growing up, because you're like our age basically, the shit was like Let's Plays, right?
Yeah.
You just sit in front of a camera, hit OBS, play for 12 minutes, slam the raw file up to YouTube.
Yeah.
Nowadays, though, gaming content is getting a lot more like story driven and story focused. And as opposed to like, watch me play this game for 12 minutes. It's, I've played this game for like a month straight with this one goal and then edited it down to a digestible like 25-minute video with like a story built into it. And
like the highlights, and it's like, and I've seen that, and I think a big part of it is attention span. People... if they don't, see something that they want to watch within the first like couple seconds, they're gone.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel like a lot of those types of videos have been, cut down. You don't see them too often anymore.
Yeah. I mean, my theory is that like part of it is saturation. So you have to spend more time on one video and put more effort into it to get the same result as PewDiePie uploading Happy Wheels number like 7,000 or whatever.
Right.
Blast from the past right there.
Yeah.
Another one, like kind of attention span, but kind of just like story is like king, even on YouTube. Like similar to filmmaking. Because I could talk about this forever because like YouTube's my day job. I like help run a YouTube channel.
Oh, cool.
For a living. And like, even if you like think like, yeah, I'm uploading a YouTube video, like if you want it to do well, you still have to have some sort of story involved.
Totally. Yeah.
And like even filmmakers can like port over to YouTube and be successful pretty quickly just because of the stuff that they learned while making like proper films.
Yeah, and that is actually one of my goals, especially since I'm making a little money from YouTube now, because of Portrait of Fear, which is cool. And obviously that's not going to last forever. It's already slowing down. And so it's like, I want to continue that and start making more content, to give back to my subscribers, So
yeah. How much is it made, if you don't mind me asking?
It's close to like 300. So not crazy, but then again, it's like the first 100,000 views, I wasn't monetized yet. So I missed out on 100,000 views worth of money. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I guess, Jake, do you have any other questions? Or Parker, you have anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
Let me see. I have some notes here.
You and your fucking notes.
You gotta have notes,
Notes
man.
are handy.
Oh, okay. Well, if you were to start again today, like just everything, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, something happened to YouTube, all your content was gone, but you still had all the skills and stuff you acquired, and assuming everyone that you have worked with just disappeared somehow.
Just perished.
Like, yeah, exactly.
Into the ether.
Damn, Thanos.
They just got vanished.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what would you do differently if you were to start again today, like with the stuff you know now?
Wow, that's a crazy question, actually. I mean, I think if I experienced all my shit just disappearing, that'd be depressing as hell.
Yeah.
That would be.
Yeah.
It would take a lot to get the ball rolling again, but I definitely wouldn't stop. I would. Gosh, I mean, I would start exactly how I started, with a script and just start shooting things. And now, obviously, because I still have that experience, the experience isn't gone. I feel like I could put out a film that's a lot better than I would, if I was just starting out. But it's like, I don't know, it would be tough to rebuild, but I feel like I could find the motivation.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Awesome. Well, if people want to find you, if they want to check out Portrait, if you connect with you on social media, where can they do that?
I would say my website, but currently it's down. I'm currently working on a full redesign and change of platform, so I'm hoping to have that up soon. But right now you can find me on Instagram, Parker Film. It's actually not spelled Parker Film, it's PRKRFLM, so remove the vowels because, usernames on Instagram got to be very specific.
We'll link it.
Yeah, or just look for the logo. And then same thing on YouTube, Parker Film. But yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so you can find both of our Instagrams in the description. And thank you so much for watching this episode of IndieFilm Insider, and we will see you all next time.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a fun episode.
And cut.
Cool.
You did that, don't you?
Yes. Cut. We're done.
Hell yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You want me to